Hi, long time no see. I was busy shifting my domicile with a great deal of packing, unpacking, and settling down in a new place. It took quite a while, but in the meanwhile, the channel has completed one exciting year successfully with all your cooperation and support. We are marching ahead on the second year with a new channel name. Yes, because there are many channels with a similar name as Rich Dad. Confusing to locate the channel and follow the videos. So, hereafter, the channel will be called as Richie Ron as a unique searching proposition, and the contents will continue to be rich on topics of life improvement, touching achievement, motivation, manifesting, techno improvements, current scenarios for quality living, and building to next level. After a long silence, it is appropriate to start the discussion on communication and conversation. First, let us see the basic communication model. There are essentially two parties, one side a sender who sends out a message, and another side a receiver who receives the message. It looks simple and you may wonder where is the problem. Unfortunately, there are many barriers in effectiveness. The sender encodes the message with his understanding in a language, and the receiver has to decode the message in his perception and capacity of the language. Most of the time, it may not be an exact copy of what the sender intended. And there is also a channel or medium through which the communication is sent. Medium refers to the method you use to relay your communication. It may include face-to-face, email, social media, written documents, PowerPoint presentations, websites, and more. Some media are richer in some context, some are poor in building relationships. Conversations and communications are the essence of building every relationship and not of breaking it. How many of us are aware that communications can make or unmake the connections and relationships eternally? Some of us think that communication is just a piece of a tool to convey our idea to others and nothing beyond. For any effective communication, it just needs an expertise in language and a good vocabulary. That is what we think. But in our daily life, do we use the communication only for passing on the message, sending out instructions? When I say using the communication, does it mean it's only a tool? Do we use this tool like a spanner or a screwdriver and throw it away? Are we aware that in communication, we are many times screwing people and breaking the relationship? We will see in this video different aspects of why and how the communication, or more appropriately the conversation, can make or unmake relationship. From the morning we rise from the bed till we hit the bed in the night, the one constant function we do is communication, verbal or non-verbal. Let me use the word conversation instead of communication. The word communication connotes lifeless and sounds inanimate, whereas conversations are the lifeblood, like how the flow of blood in the body is keeping you alive. I wanted to suggest that we should think more about having conversations with our stakeholders or significant others than a mere communication to our stakeholders. That led me to think about the core differences between communication and conversation and the creation and the content for this video. There are many key differences between communication and conversation. I could have included more, but the list was getting unwieldy. Monologue is typically a speech made by one person without any interaction with others. This is when someone is talking at you, and this can simply be called a communication. You may come across managers and executives and spouses that believe that they have communicated because they sent an email or a to-do list to you. That is not communication. That is simply a broadcast or an instruction. To avoid common mistakes like this associated with communication, we should think more about having a conversation. This would avoid the talking at you form but to become the talking with you form of communication. Think differently. Communication cannot be the means or tools of conversation, whilst conversation is always the tool or means of communication. You will understand it clearly now. In contrast to a communication, a conversation is when someone talks with you. It's a dialogue between two or more people. The advantage of dialogue is that you must be prepared to listen other party while conversing. If you are not listening, then you are not leading people or leading change in your organization or in your family setting. Leadership and life is all about building relationships, and that comes about through understanding others, their perspectives, views, ideas, values, and aspirations. That can only be accomplished through by having conversation and dialogue. Many communication is one way and neither solicit a response nor is reciprocated with a response. When communication is a broadcast, an announcement, or a notification, it is not asking for employee feedback. It does not encourage the other party to ask questions or seek further clarifications. It's a blanket statement to be accepted on its face value. For employees, that is like being in a dictatorship. Even if response or feedback is solicited at the end as a custom, the other party knows that they will not be listened to because it's already a done deal. Therefore, the employees do not feel there is a much point in sharing their thoughts. Here, the aim of communication is only to convey a message, a typical one-way communication. But the aim of conversation is to have a discussion. A conversation, therefore, explicitly solicits feedback. A conversation is an exchange of ideas, thoughts, sentiments, observations, feelings, and opinions between two or more people. It is only by soliciting a response will you find out what employees are thinking. If you do not hear what they are thinking and act accordingly, you are just doing things to people rather than doing with them, and that will result in the failure of change. If you just communicate, you have no idea whether your message was received as intended. Communication doesn't check that the language, form, or tone of the message resonated with the audience and was understood. Each one can interpret differently what has been stated. Two people can hear the same words and take different meaning. It leads to uncertainty, anxiety, and stress. What one person heard was different to what another person heard, and therefore no one is clear on what the reality is. A conversation always ensures an understanding, as it cannot take place unless both the parties are speaking in a language and form understood by each other. It can also be checked each time that the message has been understood as intended. A conversation can verify what has been heard, not just what has been dispatched. If the message has not been understood as intended, it can be adjusted and revised accordingly. When communication is one-sided and unidirectional, it implies that the party delivering the message is more important than the recipients. When there is no response solicited, it means that the decision has been made by the communicator, who knows better than everyone else and does not need others' input, thoughts, or ideas. Communicator dominance on a level playing field can be disastrous. It is often the employees who are closer to the customer and closer to the action and operational aspects of the business. They know better solutions. What might seem a good idea from the boardroom may seem like a bad one on the factory floor. But when we have a conversation, all parties are of equal importance. A real conversation allows every voice to be heard and thoughts and ideas exchanged. Again, if you are going to bring about changes to people and not change with them, people will eventually go elsewhere where they feel included. their voice is heard, and their ideas valued, shutting down your relationships. But conversation is always inclusive and build bridges and not walls. Going forward, let us have a little more conversation beyond the basic communication. We will see in the oncoming videos why communication fails, relationship breaks, interpersonal issues surface, and walls are built instead of bridges. Let us connect and explain, talk and listen, engage and exchange, transform and reshape, build relationships, and create understanding for successful change. Please keep watching the Richie Ron channel for wisdom shots. Please subscribe, share, and comment as a two-way communication. See you next.